It was a normal day at the airport. Passengers walked quickly, rolling their bags behind them. The announcements echoed in the background. Children cried. People rushed to board Flight 726 to New York. Among the crowd, a quiet man in a black jacket walked slowly. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. He didn't talk to anyone. He didn't smile. He just walked to the gate, showed his ticket, and stepped into the plane. His name was Daniel Blake. No one knew him. No one paid attention, except for one woman. She was sitting near the window in row 14. Her name was Rachel Myers. The moment she saw Daniel enter the plane, her face turned pale. Her heart started beating fast. Her hands began to shake. She quickly looked away. But it was too late. He had seen her. Daniel walked slowly down the aisle. He looked at every row, one by one. His eyes were searching. He wasn't just here for a flight. He was here for someone. Rachel started breathing heavily. Her eyes stayed on the seat in front of her. She whispered to herself, "No, it can't be him! Not after all these years!" Daniel reached row 14. His seat was right beside her. Rachel jumped up. "No, I can't sit next to him," she shouted. "Get him away from me!" The passengers turned to look. The flight attendant rushed over. "Ma'am, what's the problem?" Rachel pointed at Daniel. "This man, I know him. He's dangerous." Daniel said nothing. He just sat down quietly and looked straight ahead. The people around them started whispering. "Is she okay?" "Who is he?" "Dangerous." Rachel stood in the aisle, her eyes wide with fear. "I want him off this plane, now." The flight attendant looked confused. "Ma'am, do you know this man?" I think so," Rachel stammered. "From years ago, I remember his face. I've seen him before." Daniel finally spoke. His voice was calm and clear. "You're right, Rachel. You've seen me before." Rachel stepped back, her eyes full of panic. "I knew it!" she cried. "You followed me! You found me again!" Daniel slowly reached inside his coat. Passengers gasped. Some ducked down. One man shouted, "He has a weapon!" The flight attendant screamed, "Sir, hands where I can see them!" But Daniel didn't stop. He pulled something out of his coat, slowly, and held it up. It wasn't a weapon. It was a badge, an FBI badge. The entire plane went silent. "I'm Agent Daniel Blake," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm on official duty." The flight crew froze. Rachel looked confused. Her voice dropped. You're FBI?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, and I didn't come for this flight. I came for you." Gasps filled the plane. The tension was thick. Rachel's face turned red. "Why? What do you want from me?" Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the flight attendant and said, "Call the captain. I need to speak to airport security. This woman is part of a case." People around them began to whisper again, this time louder. "Is she a criminal? What did she do? Why is the FBI here?" Rachel sat down slowly, her eyes filled with tears. "I was just trying to live a normal life," she whispered. "I thought I escaped this." Daniel stayed silent. He just stared out the window. Captain made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a delay. Please stay seated." 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The doors of the plane opened again. 2 airport officers entered and walked straight to Daniel. "Agent Blake," one of them said, "we've confirmed your report. You can take her now." Rachel shook her head. "Please, don't do this. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to be free." Daniel finally looked her in the eyes and said something no one expected. "It's not just about you anymore, Rachel. It's about what you left behind." Rachel froze. Her lips trembled. She whispered, How do you know?" Daniel took out an old photo from his wallet. It showed a woman, a man, and a little girl, smiling. Rachel burst into tears. The airport officers stood quietly beside Agent Daniel Blake. Rachel sat frozen in her seat, tears rolling down her face. Her breathing was fast, her hands were shaking, and her eyes stayed fixed on the old photograph in Daniel's hand. "I didn't expect this," she whispered. "Not like this. Not here." Passengers around them stayed silent. Some watched with curiosity, others with fear. One child asked her mother, "Why is that lady crying?" The mother whispered, "Shh, something serious is going on." Daniel slowly sat down again beside Rachel. He put the photo back into his coat pocket. "I didn't come here to embarrass you," he said softly. "But you left a lot of people behind, Rachel. People who never stopped looking for you." Rachel looked at him. "You think I'm a criminal?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He stared at her for a few seconds, then said, "I think you're hiding something. Something big." Rachel's lips tightened. Her voice changed. "I'm not hiding. I'm surviving." The officers gently asked her to stand. "We need you to come with us," one of them said. Rachel stood slowly. She looked at the passengers, at their judging eyes, and then back at Daniel. "You don't understand," she said. "You think you're the hero here, but you don't know what I was running from." Daniel's expression didn't change. "You can explain everything once we're off the plane," he said. Rachel shook her head. "No, if I leave with you now, they'll never know the truth. Just like before." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What truth?" Rachel turned to the passengers and raised her voice. "You all think I'm guilty, that I'm some criminal the FBI is after." She pointed at Daniel. "But what if he's wrong? What if he's only heard one side of the story?" The plane was quiet again. Rachel looked around and said slowly, 6 years ago, I disappeared. I left my job, my house, everything. People said I ran because I stole money, but I didn't. I ran because someone else did, and they blamed me." Daniel looked at her, calm but alert. "You expect me to believe that?" "I don't care what you believe," Rachel snapped. "But I will tell the truth now, because I'm tired of hiding." She turned to the officers. "I'll come with you. But I want it on record. I'm not guilty. I ran to protect myself, and someone else, someone dangerous, is still out there." Daniel stood up too. "If that's true," he said quietly, "then give me the name. Tell me who it is." Rachel hesitated. Then she whispered a name so softly only Daniel heard it. His eyes widened for a second. "You're lying," he said. Rachel shook her head slowly. "No, I wish I was." Daniel looked down, deep in thought. That name meant something. He knew it. It was connected to another case, a closed case. But now, maybe it wasn't so closed after all. They walked off the plane together. The airport hallway was cold and quiet. Security officers stayed close, but Daniel walked beside Rachel. "Not ahead or behind. I need you to be honest now," Daniel said. "No more running. No more hiding. Tell me everything." Rachel nodded. "I was working for a man, a powerful man. He did things, dirty things, but he always blamed someone else. One day he told me I had to sign some papers. I didn't know what they were. When I found out, it was too late." Daniel asked, "Who is this man to you?" Rachel looked away. "He's the father of my daughter." Daniel stopped walking. Everything suddenly made sense. "You're saying the real criminal is the man in the photo?" he asked. Rachel nodded. "Yes, but he's not just a criminal. He's dangerous. He doesn't forgive betrayal. That's why I ran." Daniel stared at her for a long time. "You said you were protecting someone. You meant your daughter?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears again. "She's safe. I left her with someone I trust. But I knew one day this would all catch." Up with me? Daniel's phone buzzed. He picked it up and walked a few steps away. A voice on the other end said, "Agent Blake, we found something." The name she gave, it's connected to an old fraud and trafficking case. He's not clean. And worse, we think he's on the move. Daniel's heart beat faster. This wasn't just about Rachel anymore. He turned back to her. "We're going to need more than your story," he said. "We're going to need proof." Rachel reached into her handbag and pulled out a small USB drive. "This has everything," she said. "Emails, bank records, names. I kept it hidden all these years." Daniel took the drive and looked at her. "If this is real, then the real hunt starts now." Rachel gave a tired smile. "Then let's go hunting." The airport security room was quiet. Rachel sat in a chair, her hands tightly folded on her lap. Her face looked tired but calm. Agent Daniel Blake stood across from her, staring at the small USB drive she had given him just minutes ago. He had already seen the first few files, and they weren't ordinary. Emails, secret payments, fake company names, hidden locations, every file pointed to one man, Ethan Cole, Rachel's ex, a rich businessman, a respected name, but now, possibly a dangerous criminal. Daniel looked at Rachel. "Why now? Why give this to me after all these years?" Rachel met his eyes. "Because I was waiting for someone who would believe me." Daniel said nothing. He slid the USB into a laptop and opened another folder. He found a recording. Rachel said, "That's the phone call where he threatened me. I recorded it the night I disappeared." Daniel hit play. A man's voice came through the speakers. "If you speak, Rachel, if you go to the police, I swear you'll lose everything. You, your job, even your daughter." Rachel looked away. Tears formed in her eyes. Daniel closed the laptop. He took out his phone and dialed a number. "Headquarters," he said. "This is Agent Blake. I need a full team. We're opening a case on Ethan Cole." The voice on the other side replied, "That case was closed 5 years ago. Lack of evidence." Daniel glanced at the USB. "Not anymore. We have what we need." 2 hours later, Daniel and Rachel left the airport. They were driven to a secure FBI building in the city. On the way, Rachel looked out the window in silence. The rain fell softly on the windows of the safe house. Rachel sat alone at the table, a warm cup of tea untouched in front of her. Her mind wasn't in the room. It was drifting back to a life she had tried to forget. A life full of secrets, fear, and heartbreak. She opened her purse and took out a small, worn journal. The cover was faded. The pages inside were filled with hurried writing, drawings, and memories. It was her only proof of who she used to be. She flipped to a page near the beginning. A date was written there, October 14th, 2016, the day everything changed. Back then, Rachel was a bright young financial analyst. She worked for one of the biggest companies in the city, a business empire led by none other than Ethan Cole. Everyone admired him, powerful, charming, rich, but behind his smile was a dangerous man. Rachel didn't know it at first. She believed in her job, she worked hard, she followed the rules, and when Ethan began to show interest in her, she thought it was love. It wasn't. They grew close. Too close. And before she realized it, Rachel was involved in things she didn't understand. Strange meetings, paperwork that didn't make sense, secret bank accounts. One night, she walked into Ethan's office without knocking. She found him arguing on the phone. His voice was cold. "We moved the kids by Friday. No mistakes. The money's already been sent." Rachel stood frozen. He didn't see her. Not then. But that was the moment Rachel knew. Something was terribly wrong. She tried to stay quiet, tried to act normal. But the questions wouldn't stop. What kids? What money? She began looking through files at night, copying emails, saving documents, quietly building her own collection of evidence. She wanted to leave, to tell someone. But Ethan found out. And he didn't threaten her with violence. He threatened her with loss. "You walk away," he said, "and your daughter disappears." Just like that. Rachel's world collapsed. She had to choose between justice and her child. She chose her child, and she vanished. Back in the present, Rachel closed the journal. Her hands trembled. The clock on the wall ticked slowly. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Agent Daniel Blake. "We're in. No shots fired. Ethan is in custody. He's quiet. Too quiet." Rachel felt her heart race. Ethan was caught. But this wasn't the end. She texted back. "He never does anything without a backup plan. Be careful." Meanwhile, at the FBI headquarters, Daniel sat across from Ethan Cole. Ethan wore a slight smile. Calm, confident, even in handcuffs, Daniel dropped the USB on the table. "We have enough to bury you," he said. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Do you?" he asked. "Or do you just think—"
"You do?"
Daniel didn't reply. Ethan continued. "Let me guess. Rachel told you everything. The perfect victim, right? But did she tell you about the part she played?" Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Ethan leaned forward. "Rachel wasn't just an employee. She helped build the system. She knew everything. She signed every paper. She's not innocent, Agent. She's part of this." Back at the safe house, Rachel stared at the same documents she had given the FBI. Her hands touched one file, her signature clearly visible at the bottom. She whispered to herself, "I didn't know. I didn't know what they were for." But would the world believe her? Would Daniel believe her? The rain had stopped, but the storm was far from over. Rachel stared at the documents in front of her. Each one had her name, her signature. She felt her chest tighten. Doubt crept in. Would they believe she was innocent? Or would they think she had been part of Ethan's crimes? Her phone buzzed again. Agent Daniel Blake was calling. She picked up. "Rachel," he said, "we need to talk. Now." His voice was cold. Different. An hour later, Rachel arrived at the FBI office. She was taken into a small room, not the one she'd been in before. No windows. Just one table, 2 chairs, and a camera in the corner. Daniel walked in holding a folder. He didn't smile. He didn't sit. Instead, he placed the folder in front of her and opened it. Inside were copies of the documents, emails, contracts, transactions, all with Rachel's name and signature. "You need to tell me the truth," Daniel said. Rachel's voice was quiet. "I already did." Daniel leaned in. "Then explain this. Explain why your name is on every major deal tied to Ethan's criminal activity." Rachel looked up, tears forming in her eyes. "I didn't know. He made me sign things. He said they were just company work. I never knew what they were really for." Daniel paused. He was watching her closely. Then he asked a question she didn't expect. "Do you know a man named Marcus Lane?" Rachel froze. Her heart dropped. Yes, she knew that name. Marcus Lane was a lawyer, or at least that's what she thought. He worked with Ethan, always quiet, always in the background. She had only met him once, but now Daniel said something that shocked her. "Marcus Lane is not a lawyer. He's a fixer. Ethan's fixer. He cleans up messes. And guess what, Rachel? Your name is in his phone contacts." Rachel's hands shook. "I didn't call him. I swear," she said. "I had nothing to do with him." Daniel closed the folder. His tone softened. "I believe you, but I had to ask. Ethan is trying to turn everything against you. If he can't escape, he wants you to go down with him." Rachel's shoulders dropped with relief. Daniel continued, "We've been tracking Marcus. He's still out there. And we think he's planning something." Later that night, Daniel's team reviewed Ethan's phone logs. A call had gone out before his arrest, just minutes before. To Marcus Lane. The message was short. "Plan C. She talks, you act. Those words were enough. Rachel wasn't safe anymore. The FBI moved her to a new safe house, tighter security, hidden location. But Rachel couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the voice message in her mind. The threats, the fear, the years of hiding. Daniel sat with her the next morning. He had coffee in one hand, a file in the other. We've tracked Marcus's. Last location. He's in the city, not far. Rachel looked up. What does he want now? Daniel sighed. To silence you. For good. But Daniel had a plan. We're going to trap him, he said. And you're going to help us. Rachel was shocked. Me? Daniel nodded. He wants you, so we'll let him think he's winning. But we'll be waiting. The plan was dangerous. Rachel would be taken to a fake safe house, a trap filled with hidden cameras, agents posing as guards, and sensors everywhere. If Marcus came, they would catch him. Rachel hesitated, but then she remembered something. Her daughter's smile, her small hands holding hers, her innocent laughter. She looked at Daniel. I'll do it, she said. Let's finish this. That night, Rachel walked into the trap house. She sat by the window, pretending to read. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Outside, FBI agents waited in the shadows. Then, just after midnight, a black car pulled up across the street. A man stepped out, tall, wearing gloves, carrying a small bag. He moved quickly, quietly, like a man who had done this before. He reached the door. He picked the lock. He stepped inside. Rachel's hands gripped the chair. She didn't move. Not yet. She waited. The man came closer. Then, FBI! Drop your weapon! Lights flashed. Agents swarmed in. The man dropped the bag. Inside were rope, a knife, and a burner phone. It was Marcus Lane, caught, trapped. Rachel sat frozen, tears rolling down her cheeks. It was over. Almost. The next morning, the news spread fast. Ethan Cole's fixer, Marcus Lane, arrested in FBI sting operation. The media flashed his picture on every screen. People started to talk. Questions were everywhere. Who was helping Ethan all these years? Who else was involved? But one name was whispered more than the rest: Rachel. Inside the FBI headquarters, Rachel sat in a quiet room. She had barely slept. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had taken a big risk by helping with the trap. And now, everything was changing. Agent Daniel Blake entered with a folder in his hand. He looked serious. Rachel stood. What is it? She asked. Daniel paused for a moment, then placed the folder on the table. Rachel, he said, we went through Marcus's phone. He recorded everything. Conversations, plans, names. Rachel's heart raced. What did he say about me? She asked softly. Daniel opened the folder. He confirmed your story. You were used? You didn't know. Ethan kept you close, not because he trusted you, but because he needed a face people would believe. And you were that face. Rachel let out a shaky breath. So, I'm free? Daniel gave a small nod. You're not just free, you're clean. Rachel felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off her shoulders. But then, Daniel said something that brought new tension. There's one more thing. One more person involved. Rachel's eyes widened. Who? Daniel flipped a photo toward her. Her face went pale. It was someone she never expected. Someone she had once called a friend. The person was Carla, her old co-worker. Quiet. Smart. Always kind. Rachel had trusted her. They shared lunch breaks, secrets, and long talks during office hours. Now the truth was out. Carla had been working with Ethan the whole time. She was the one who told Ethan about Rachel's questions. She had been feeding him information, protecting his business from the inside. Rachel felt a mix of pain and anger. Why would she do that? she whispered. Daniel shook his head. Money, power, fear. Sometimes people choose the wrong side to survive. Later that day, Daniel called a press conference. Rachel stood beside him, her head held high. The cameras flashed. Microphones were pointed at her. She was no longer a suspect. She was a survivor. She took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. For years, I lived in fear. I thought staying silent would protect my family. But the truth always comes out. And now, it has. I'm not the only one. Many people have been hurt by Ethan's lies. Everything seemed calm. Rachel was finally free. The FBI had cleared her name. Her daughter was back in her arms. Ethan Cole and Marcus Lane were behind bars. The nightmare was over, or so she thought. 1 week later, Agent Daniel Blake walked into the FBI office holding a sealed envelope. No return address, no fingerprints, just a note inside, 3 words. It's not over. The writing was messy, but familiar. Daniel stared at it. Ethan. Even from prison, he was still trying to send a message. Daniel immediately contacted Rachel. She was living quietly now. New city, new name, new life. When she answered the call, she could tell by Daniel's voice that something was wrong. He didn't waste time. Rachel, he's trying something. We don't know what yet, but the message was clear. Stay alert. Rachel felt her chest tighten. She looked out the window. Everything looked normal, but her instincts told her otherwise. She had learned to trust her fear. That night, a black car circled her street 3 times. She noticed. The next morning, her daughter's school called. Someone had tried to pick her up. A man pretending to be Rachel's brother. Rachel didn't have a brother. She called Daniel immediately. They're coming after me again. Daniel activated full protection. Armed agents surrounded the house. Security systems were upgraded. But Rachel knew Ethan wouldn't give up that easily. Not Ethan. He always had a backup plan. Back in prison, Ethan sat calmly in his cell. But he wasn't alone. His lawyer, a woman named Vanessa Ward, sat across from him. Vanessa was not just a lawyer. She was loyal. And dangerous. Ethan leaned in and whispered something to her. A short plan. A dangerous plan. One final move. That night, Vanessa walked into a private storage unit outside the city. Inside were files, passports, cash, and a laptop. She opened it. A video began to play. Ethan's voice filled the room. If you're watching this, it means they think I've lost. But I haven't. Rachel thinks she's free. But I never lose. Make sure she understands that. Vanessa uploaded the video to an anonymous channel, scheduled it to release the next day. The message was about to go public, but Daniel was faster. The FBI traced Vanessa's movements. They raided the storage unit before the upload could go live. All evidence was taken. Vanessa was arrested. And the laptop? Wiped. Ethan's final move had failed. The next morning, Rachel opened her door to find Daniel standing there. He handed her a small box. Inside was the original video file Ethan tried to leak. She looked up, confused. Daniel said, "You deserve to see it, but only if you want to." Rachel didn't hesitate. She pressed play. Ethan appeared on the screen, calm and smug. "You think you've won, Rachel, but the world will always believe power over truth, and you'll never be safe." Rachel stared at the screen for a moment, then she pressed delete. "I don't need his voice in my life anymore," she said. Daniel smiled. "You're stronger than you think." Months passed. Rachel started working again, this time helping victims of financial fraud. Her story became a quiet inspiration, not a headline, not a scandal, just a reminder that even in the darkest moments, a person can choose to fight back, to survive, to start again. And one evening, as the sun set across the sky, Rachel sat with her daughter in the backyard. They laughed, they played, they lived. Because Ethan's story was over, and Rachel's was just beginning.